salivary gland. You know, salivary gland is responsible for the secretion of the saliva. So, in case of the animal, there are three basic salivary glands, that is parotid salivary gland, mandibular salivary gland, and the sublingual salivary gland. There are three basic salivary glands: parotid, mandibular, and sublingual salivary gland. So the ducts of the all salivary glands are open into the mouth. Duct of all salivary glands are open into the mouth. This salivary gland is very well developed in case of the herbivorous animal, because in the herbivorous there are more fibrous food, so there are requirement of saliva is more. So if you will see the secretion of the parotid salivary gland and mandibular salivary gland, so the secretion of parotid salivary gland is the serous in nature, whereas the secretion of mandibular and sublingual salivary gland is the mixed in nature. Mixed means secretion of mandibular and sublingual is a mixed type. That means it has serous and mucus type of the secretion, or mixed type of the secretion. But in parotid salivary gland, there is only serous type of the secretion. So alveoli of the serous acini and the alveoli of mucus acini we will discuss in the histology classes. So this histological pictures of the serous and mucus is the different. We will discuss in the histology classes. Here you only know the what is the secretion of the parotid salivary gland and the mandibular salivary gland. The nature of the secretion is the serous type in the parotid and the mixed type in the mandibular and sublingual salivary gland. So this saliva provides the liquid medium and the phosphate for the bacterial fermentation of the cellulose, and it also acts as buffer to neutralize the fatty acid. It also acts as buffer to neutralize the fatty acid. So this saliva provides the liquid medium for the bacterial fermentation of the cellulose. Whereas in case of the fall, these salivary glands are not separately present, but this salivary gland is confined to the wall of the oral cavity, including the palate and also in the pharynx. So in the birds, there is no additional salivary gland, but this is only present in the wall of the oral cavity. Now, first the parotid salivary gland. First is the parotid salivary gland. So this salivary gland is club-shaped, light brown in color structures situated on the posterior margin of the masseter muscles. In morning classes, I told you the masseter muscles, location of the masseter muscles, where it is situated. So this salivary gland is situated, parotid salivary gland is situated on the posterior part of the masseter muscles, and it partially fills with the retromandibular fossa. It partially fills the retromandibular fossa. This retromandibular fossa is a shallow depression just caudal to the ramus of the mandible, just ventral to the wing of the atlas. If you will see the caudal part of the vertical ramus of mandible, some depressed area or depression is there just ventral to the wing of atlas. That area is called the retromandibular fossa. So this parotid salivary glands fills the retromandibular fossa. So this salivary gland also covered with parotid lymph node. It partially covers the parotid lymph node, because just below the parotid salivary gland, parotid lymph node is there. So it partially covers the parotid lymph node. The thicker end of the gland is directly towards the base of the ear. If you will see the picture of the parotid salivary gland, here you see the parotid salivary gland. You see this one. This is the parotid salivary gland. This light yellow color structures, club shaped structures. This is the parotid salivary gland, and here this is upper end is the broad that is situated on the near the base of the ear. This upper part is situated on the base of the ear. So the thicker end of the gland, of course, the upper part of the gland is the thicker and that directed upward towards the base of the ear. So this parotid salivary gland has the two surface, lateral surface and the medial surface. So this outer surface is the lateral surface and inner surface, that is the medial surface. Inner surface is the medial surface. So this lateral surface or outer surface is related with the parotid fascia and the parotido-auricularis muscles. This parotido-auricularis muscles, detail about these muscles we will discuss in the muscles of the ear. So this lateral part of lateral surface of parotid salivary gland is covered with the parotid fascia. Parotid fascia is nothing that is the serous type of the membrane, thin membrane that covers the parotid salivary gland, and also the parotido-auricularis muscles on the lateral side. If you will see on the medial side, so on the inner side, or medial side of the parotid salivary gland is related with the common carotid artery, external jugular vein, thyroid bone, and its branches of the facial and the trigeminal nerve and the parotid lymph node. So medial surface of parotid salivary gland is related with the common carotid artery, external jugular vein, thyroid bone, and muscles of the thyroid bone, branches of the facial and the trigeminal nerve, and the parotid lymph node. Whereas the lateral surface is related with the parotid fascia and the parotido-auricularis muscles. So if you will see the duct of the parotid salivary gland. So this duct of the, you see this is the parotid salivary gland and here is the duct. So this duct arises from the lower part or the lower aspect or ventral end of this parotid salivary gland on the rostral margin, on the rostral border of the parotid salivary gland. This duct arises. So this duct of parotid salivary gland is known as the Stenson duct. The duct of the parotid salivary gland is known as what? Stenson duct. So the Stenson duct runs on the what is the course of the Stenson duct? How it is running? So the Stenson duct runs first on the medial surface of the mandible. First on the medial surface of the mandible. Here is the mandible, here is the vertical ramus and the horizontal ramus. So this is the, here on this aspect there is masseter muscles, here is the horizontal ramus. So after the origin, this Stenson duct runs on the medial side of the ramus, and then it goes cranially or rostrally and winds the ventral border of the mandible, and reaches on the lateral surface of mandible. It winds around the ventral border of the mandible and reach on the lateral surface of the mandible, or you can say the lateral surface of the face. Then it goes rostrodorsally in front of the masseter muscles. After it going on the lateral surface, after the reaching on the lateral surface, it goes rostrodorsally. Here is the masseter muscles. So it goes on the rostral aspect of the masseter muscles, along with the facial artery and the facial vein, in the cheek to the vestibule, to the buccal vestibule. I told you what is the vestibule. So this Stenson duct first is originated from the ventrorostral aspect of the parotid salivary gland. then it reaches on the medial side of the mandible, then it goes towards the ventral border of the mandible and reaches on the lateral face of the mandible, then it goes cranially towards the frontal border or rostral border of the masseter muscles and goes towards the buccal vestibule along with the facial artery and the facial vein, and finally it terminates into the buccal vestibule on the on an elevation that is called papilla salivalis at the level of upper fifth cheek tooth, upper fifth cheek tooth. So, so this extension duct is open on the papilla salivalis, and where the papilla salivalis is situated, papilla salivalis is situated at the level of upper fifth cheek tooth, upper fifth cheek, opposite to the upper fifth cheek tooth. If you will see, here is the upper fifth cheek tooth, then you will see just opposite to upper fifth cheek tooth in the buccal vestibule, the opening of this extension duct or the opening of this papilla salivalis is situated just opposite to the upper fifth cheek tooth. So this is the course of the extension duct. Now, in case of the horse, this parotid salivary gland is the largest salivary gland. You must remember, this parotid salivary gland is the largest salivary gland in case of the horse. In case of the horse, parotid is the largest salivary gland among all three. But this salivary gland is the quadrilateral in outline. In case of the ox, it was club shaped, but here in case of the horse, somewhat quadrilateral in shape. Somewhat quadrilateral in shape. It is almost yellowish red in color and in contact with the it has in contact with the guttural pouch. We will discuss in detail about the guttural pouch when we will study the pharynx. So it occupies, in case of the horse, it also occupies the retromandibular fossa. What about the extension duct in case of the horse? The extension duct leaves the gland near the anterior border. You see, this is the parotid salivary gland, and here is the duct of the, here is the extension duct. This one, this is the extension duct. So this duct opens, or this duct arises near the anterior border and open on the papilla salivalis, open on the papilla salivalis, and papilla salivalis is situated in case of the horse just opposite to the level of upper third cheek tooth in the buccal vestibule, in the buccal vestibule. So in case of the horse, papilla salivalis is situated just opposite to the upper third cheek tooth. What about in case of the small ruminants? You just remember the opening of the extension duct, opening of the extension duct. So in case of the sheep, this extension duct is open opposite to the upper fifth cheek tooth, upper fifth cheek. It means what? In case of the sheep, so this papilla salivalis is situated in the buccal vestibule at the level of opposite to upper fifth cheek tooth. But in case of the goat, it is situated on the buccal vestibule just opposite to the upper third cheek tooth, upper third cheek tooth. So in case of the small ruminant, you must remember the opening of the extension duct, or at what level it is open in case of the sheep and in case of the goat. What about in case of the dog? In case of the dog, this parotid salivary gland is the almost triangular in shape. You see, this is the parotid salivary gland. It is triangular in appearance. It is triangular in appearance, and its apex is directed ventrally. This is triangular in appearance. If you will see triangular appearance, then you see this one is the ventral, one is the apex part. So this apex is directed ventrally, and it is small and notched dorsally. You see on the dorsal aspect, one notch-like structure is there. This is notch of this parotid salivary gland on the dorsal aspect in the dog. What about the duct? The duct leaves the gland at the lower part of anterior border. lower part of the anterior border. You see this one is the anterior border of the lower part. So this duct is arises from here and crosses the lateral surface of the masseter muscles. Here is the masseter muscles. So it passes on the lateral aspect of the masseter muscles and open into the papilla salivalis. Open into the papilla salivalis. That papilla salivalis, where it is present in the buccal vestibule. Buccal vestibule at the level of opposite to the upper third or fourth cheek tooth. Upper third or fourth cheek tooth. So in case of the dog, papilla salivalis is situated on the opposite to the upper third and or fourth cheek tooth. Now the blunt ventral end, this one is the ventral end. Blunt ventral end covers only a small dorsal portion of the mandibular salivary gland. So this one is the mandibular salivary gland. This rounded one is the mandibular salivary gland, and this ventral part of this carotid salivary gland covers the only smaller area of the mandibular salivary gland. Okay. Now what about in case of the pig? In case of the pig, this carotid salivary gland is also here also a triangular in appearance. You see this is the carotid salivary gland. This is large and triangular in appearance. So its rostral margin lies against the caudal border of the mandible. What is telling? Its rostral margin means its anterior margin is situated on the caudal border of the mandible. On the caudal border of the mandible, or you can say its rostral margin is related with the posterior margin of the mandible or caudal border of the mandible. Okay. So in case of the pig, the duct, extension duct open into the opposite to the upper third or fourth cheek tooth. Upper third or fourth cheek tooth. So in case of the pig, papilla salivalis also present in the upper, in the buccal vestibule at the level of opposite to third or fourth cheek tooth. Upper third or fourth cheek tooth. Now next salivary gland is the mandibular salivary gland. Mandibular salivary gland. In case of the ox, this mandibular salivary gland is the largest salivary gland. But in case of the horse, I told you, in case of the horse, which salivary gland is the largest? Parotid salivary gland. Parotid salivary gland is largest salivary gland in case of the horse. But in case of the ox, this mandibular salivary gland is the largest salivary gland. It extends from the wing of the atlas and well into the mandibular space where it is marked by thickened. You see here, this one. You see, this is the mandibular salivary gland. This is the mandibular salivary gland. This mandibular salivary gland is largest salivary gland. Mandibular salivary gland is largest salivary gland in case of the ox. In case of ox. So it's situated between the basi hyoid and the fossa atlantis. Basi hyoid and the fossa atlantis. What is the fossa atlantis? You remember the fossa atlantis? This fossa atlantis is situated on the ventral side of the atlas vertebrae. On the ventral aspect of the atlas vertebrae, there is a deep depression or fossa-like structures is there. That is the fossa atlantis. So this upper margin of this mandibular salivary gland is related with the fossa atlantis, or you can say this upper margin or dorsal margin of the mandibular salivary gland is related with the fossa atlantis. So it partially covered with the parotid salivary gland. It partially covered with, you see, this one is the parotid salivary gland. So this parotid salivary gland partially covers the mandibular salivary gland. Now the ventral end of the mandibular salivary gland is rounded. You see, this one is the almost rounded ventral border of this mandibular salivary gland is the almost rounded and lies near the midline and touching the gland of the other side. What I am telling, this rounded one structures, rounded or ventral part of this mandibular salivary gland is in close contact with the same gland of the other side. So ventral part of this side and ventral part of opposite side is closely attached to each other. So Uh, so the medial aspect, medially it is related with medial, or you can say the medial surface of this mandibular salivary gland is also related with the common carotid artery. We will discuss about the common carotid artery. This common carotid artery, external carotid artery. This is the branches of the uh, anterior aorta. We will discuss later in the next classes. So this medial aspect of this mandibular salivary gland is related with the common carotid artery branches of the common carotid artery, vagus nerve, and the branches of the trigeminal nerve, pharynx, and the larynx. We will discuss later about the all branches of the cranial nerve and the branches of the carotid artery also. Here, only you remember the medial aspect of the mandibular salivary gland is related with the common carotid artery and the vagus nerve and the branches of the trigeminal nerve also. Now, the duct. So, the duct of the mandibular salivary gland is called the Wharton's duct. The duct of the mandibular salivary gland is called Wharton's duct. So, this duct passes rostrally between the myohypoides and the hyoglossus muscles. In morning classes, I discussed about the hyoglossus muscles. These hyoglossus muscles is situated on the posterior margin or on the near the root of the tongue, lateral aspect of the root of the tongue, and it inserts into the root and the body of the tongue. And this myohypoides muscles is situated in between the mandible, in between the horizontal ramus of the mandible. So this duct or Wharton's duct is passes along with the myohypoides and the hyoglossus muscles, and it and into the caruncula sublingualis, along with the duct of the monostomatic part of the sublingual salivary gland. I already discussed about the caruncula sublingualis. What is the caruncula sublingualis? This caruncula sublingualis, where it is located, where it is located, we have already discussed in previous classes. Now, here also you see this is the floor of the oral cavity. This is the floor of the oral cavity. You see this one. This is the caruncula sublingualis. This semilunar like margin. You see this one. This is the caruncula sublingualis. So this caruncula sublingualis, this one, situated just behind the corner incisor. This is the corner incisor. So it is situated just behind the corner incisor. So the duct of the mandibular salivary gland is open into the caruncula sublingualis, along with the duct of the monostomatic sublingual salivary gland, along with the duct of monostomatic sublingual salivary gland. Okay, so this is about the mandibular salivary gland. It is the largest salivary gland. In case of the ox, its duct is the Wharton's duct, and it's open into the caruncula sublingualis. So, in case of the horse, what about in case of the horse? Mandibular salivary gland is much smaller than the parotid salivary gland. In case of the horse, this mandibular salivary gland is the smaller as compared to the parotid salivary gland. You see this one. This is the mandibular salivary gland, and this larger one, that is the parotid salivary gland. This parotid salivary gland is the largest salivary gland in case of the horse. But here, mandibular salivary gland is the comparatively smaller. Now, Wharton's duct is open alone into the caruncula sublingualis. Here, Wharton's duct is alone open into the caruncula sublingualis. What is the difference? In case of the ox, this Wharton's duct is open along with the duct of the monostomatic sublingual salivary gland. Monostomatic sublingual salivary gland. We will discuss the sublingual salivary gland. Sublingual salivary gland has two parts, monostomatic and the polystomatic. So, in case of the horse, this monostomatic sublingual salivary gland is the absent. So, there is no monostomatic sublingual salivary gland. So, Wharton's duct is open alone on the caruncula sublingualis. Okay. Now, in case of the pig, this mandibular salivary gland is the almost oval in shape. You see, this one is the Mandibular salivary gland, it is almost oval in shape, smaller than the parotid salivary gland. You see this parotid salivary gland is the very large, and here this is the mandibular salivary gland. Now you see the duct. This duct is arises from the lateral surface of the gland, and open and goes on the rostromedial angle of the gland and open into the caruncula sublingualis. It open into the caruncula sublingualis. So in case of the pig, it is oval in shape. It is oval in shape, oval or rounded in shape. Now, what about in case of the dog? What about in case of the dog? In case of the dog, here also mandibular salivary gland is the oval or rounded in shape. You see, this is the mandibular salivary gland. This is the mandibular salivary gland is the almost oval or globular or rounded in shape and larger or lighter in color than the parotid salivary gland. Lighter in color than the parotid salivary gland. What about the lobulation? Here, in case of the dog, here is the its surface is the almost smooth, but there is no lobulation is the distinct. It is smooth externally because its lobulation is the not distinct. Its lobulation is not distinct. So it look like smooth. So it look like it's externally it look like the smooth appearance. Lobulation is indistinct. What about the duct? Duct is open on the caruncula sublingualis duct. You see, here is the duct of the mandibular salivary gland. Its duct is going like this. You see, its duct is arises from the anterior border and it goes and open into the caruncula sublingualis along with the duct of the monostomatic part of the sublingual salivary gland. Monostomatic part of the sublingual salivary gland. Here, in case of the dog, I told you, in case of the dog, there is monostomatic salivary gland and polystomatic salivary gland. Both are present. So Wharton's duct is open, monostomatic, and Wharton's duct combinedly into the caruncula sublingualis. Now, sublingual salivary gland. Sublingual salivary gland, name indicating sublingual means it is situated below the tongue. Lingual means tongue, so it's situated below the tongue. Sublingual salivary gland. So this sublingual salivary gland is 2 in number, as I told. This is 2 in number, that is the monostomatic part and the polystomatic part. Monostomatic part and the polystomatic part. So there are 2 in number under the mucosa of the lateral sublingual rashe and the lateral surface of the tongue. As I told you, it is situated just below the tongue. So it has 2 parts, monostomatic part and the monostomatic and the distomatic or polystomatic. So the monostomatic, name indicating it has monostomatic, it has only one duct. Monostomatic, it has only one duct. Polystomatic, it has more than one duct. Polystomatic means it has more than one duct. So monostomatic has only one duct. So the monostomatic salivary gland is ventrally present, short, and it has only one excretory duct. You see this one. This smaller one, shorter one, you see this one. This is the monostomatic. This one is the monostomatic salivary gland. Here is the polystomatic salivary gland. Polystomatic salivary gland. So this monostomatic salivary gland is the somewhat ventral than the polystomatic. Ventral than the polystomatic salivary gland. Another thing, it is compact. It is compact. Polystomatic sublingual salivary gland is the compact in nature, but monostomatic is the compact, but polystomatic is the loosely arranged. We will discuss. It extends from the mandibular symphysis. I told you, here is the body of the mandible. Here is the body of the mandible. Just behind the body of the mandible, both mandible are fused and form the mandibular symphysis. So it's extend from the mandibular symphysis and to the last premolar tooth. So it extends from the mandibular symphysis and it terminates to the last premolar tooth. What about the duct? This duct is the single as it is monostomatic. So the duct is single and it's open on the sublingual caruncle or the sublingual caruncle or the caruncula sublingualis. Both are the same along with the duct of what? Mandibular salivary gland. Along with the duct of the mandibular salivary gland. So duct of the monostomatic sublingual salivary gland in case of the ox open into the caruncula sublingualis along with the Wharton's duct or the ducts of the mandibular salivary gland. Okay. Now the polystomatic salivary gland. This polystomatic salivary gland, this polystomatic salivary gland is the almost dorsal to the monostomatic, and it is situated in the loose chain-like lobules. But monostomatic is the compact. It extends from the mandibular. It also extends from the mandibular symphysis, but it goes to the more posteriorly up to the palatoglossal arch. Remember, palatoglossal means palatine, soft palate, and the root of the tongue. So it goes more caudally from the mandibular symphysis to the palatoglossal arch. So it name indicating it has the several ducts. All ducts of the polystomatic salivary gland open into the sublingual raceae on the lateral aspect of the tongue. So many openings are there. Very fine orifice is there. Within this orifice, this duct of the polystomatic sublingual salivary gland is open. In case of the horse, monostomatic sublingual salivary gland is absent. I told you earlier. Only polystomatic is the present. It extend from the mandibular symphysis to the level of the third cheek tooth. Remember these things. It extends from the mandibular symphysis to the level of third lower cheek tooth, and open into the sublingual fold. Now, in case of the dog, polystomatic and monostomatic both are there. Polystomatic gland is which is anterior part consists of the chain of the isolated lobules. You see the polystomatic part here. This is the polystomatic. This polystomatic consists of the seven chain-like structures. Isolated lobules. It has the isolated lobules, and it has small 10 to 12 ducts that is directly open into the mouth of the polystomatic part of the sublingual salivary gland. Now the monostomatic part is the compact and it has the single duct. So it passes between the digastricus and the pterygoideus muscles. And of the duct, its duct is open into the caruncula sublingualis along with the opening of the mandibular duct or along with the opening of the Wharton's duct. So this is about the parotid salivary gland of the dog. Now one more special salivary gland that is the zygomatic salivary gland. You remember this zygomatic salivary gland only found in case of the dog. It also corresponding to the dorsal buccal gland. We already discussed about the buccal gland, dorsal buccal gland, ventral buccal gland, middle buccal gland. So zygomatic salivary gland is just corresponding to the dorsal buccal gland. And regarding the dorsal buccal gland, we already discussed what is the location of the dorsal buccal gland or zygomatic salivary gland. This zygomatic salivary gland you see here, this one. This is the zygomatic salivary gland. This red color rounded structures, this is the zygomatic salivary gland. This zygomatic salivary gland is situated just in front of the pterygopalatine fossa. At this place, pterygopalatine fossa is there. So this is situated just in front of the pterygopalatine fossa. So